Hey guys, it's Odaiba here. Now that the race for the limited arena titles and global version of WOTV Visions is over, I can finally commit to making more new videos and, to kick things off, tomorrow there's an update for JP, so I thought I'll do a news video today covering all the good stuff that's coming out for WOTV Visions JP tomorrow. There's actually quite a bunch of stuff actually. You're going to start implementing a friend referral system tomorrow. There are some new banners for Dark Ifrit, FF7, Remake Integrate, Yuffie, and actually just Yuffie. And then of course there is the balance updates. This time I believe Operative and Viking are the two jobs getting a bunch of buffs. And then for the units, they are getting Dream, Enhancement, and Reincarnation. There's quite a few. So I've written down my notes here and I'm going to change to this view right over here so that we can see both the Japanese text, the changes for all of these stuff, but at the same time we can also look at WOTV Calc so that I can just show you guys what the skill actually does in English. So first things first, we're going to take a look at Operative, and let me load out my notes over here. The first move to get a buff under the Operative job is Toxic Assault, which is, I believe, right over here. So Toxic Assault is a move that does a bunch of damage, and it only hits on a target that's right in front of you, apparently. And this move has a 65% chance to inflict poison, although that chance is decreased by 20% every single time the unit gets hit. So if you get hit twice, then this percentage chance drops to 25%. So basically at the beginning, if you don't get hit at all, the poison activation chance is basically 100% at 50 faith. Sorry, at 97 faith, because it's 1.5. At 50 faith is 65% chance. But if you get your poison rate reduced to 25%, then even if you have 97% on the unit, 97 faith on the unit, the chance will only increase up to 38%. You know what? Let's stop talking about percentages. It's confusing. It's basically a poison move, and the way that this move is buffed is that now it will also get 3-turn reaction ability activation rate greatly reduced on the target, and also that target's slash resistance also is reduced. And after all these debuffs are taken place already, then it will proceed to do the damage and apply the poison check. Next move, we have the Blinding Trinity. This is a triple hit move. It's a plus sign AoE move, and it does a bunch of damage and has the ability to inflict blind for a 25% chance. Did I read that correctly? Yeah, 25% chance to inflict blind for 3 turns. I should have just read it that way. Anyway, for this move, the buff here is that it will now also remove AP regen effects as well as haste. Not too shabby. Next up, we have Shadow Dance. This is a move that is a buff move, and it basically gives you, let's see here, reduces the damage taken for 3 times for self by 30% each time, and it also gives you a agility buff by 25%, and this agility buff will stay on forever until you get hit 1 time. So for the let's see here, Shadow Dance. So the improvement this time with this move is Shadow Dance will now also give you 3-turn AP regeneration small. Finally, we have Valentine Ildirus, level 120 skill, Fatal Blind. So this is a move that does a bunch of damage, has a 50% chance to inflict Immobilize for 3 turns on the target, and if the target is immobilized, it will also decrease their single target resistance by up to 30. It's a single target move, and the buff to this is that the range will be increased from 4 to 5, and the range height increased from 1 to 2. So overall, it seems like, Operative is not getting that many buffs. I do like that Blinding Trinity will now remove haste and AP recovery effects. But other than that, it's just, a little bit more damage here and there. And I don't think this will affect things too much for operative units. Now moving on to the other job that gets buffed a whole lot more. And that's Viking that we're talking about. Viking gets a total of 8 moves that get buffed. Well, I say 8 moves, but some of these are reaction abilities and passives. So let's take a look. The first move that gets buffed is Killing Axe. I believe it's right over here. Normally, Killing Axe will apply a Human Killer 25x, and after that, it will do a bunch of damage. And if you look at the range, it has a pretty interesting range as well. The three squares right in front of the unit is the attacking range. And for the improvement this time, for the buff here, it's going to get a AP reduction from 34 to 29, and then the number of users increase from 2 to 3. Next up we have, I believe this is Full-Bodied Blow. It's basically a, what do you call it? It's just a move that does a huge amount of damage, but you have to be right next to the opponent, right next to the enemy to be able to use this move. So for Full-Bodied Blow, the upgrade is that the range height has been increased from 0 to 1, and the number of users increased from 2 to 3, and most importantly, this is kind of crazy actually. So now Full-Bodied Blow will actually, let's see here, it will actually decrease the target's defense / resistance and reaction ability activation rate. It will actually greatly decrease all these things first before applying the damage. So you can potentially do a huge amount of damage. I mean, the damage multiplier for this is 270%, right? It's basically damage XL, the highest amount of damage you can get in the game for a move. So as long as you are able to get your Viking unit right next to a target, this move might be something that the AI will use a lot moving forward for JP after the balance patch has been applied. Now next up we have Drain Cyclones. This is another pretty interesting move. It is a move that requires you to be right next to your targets, but it's technically an AoE move. It will basically hit all of the enemies around you. Right now in the game, it will only hit the, how do you say this, the 4 squares that are right next to the unit. But after the buff, it will actually change the targeting range to all 8 squares around the unit. So technically, if you are somehow able to get into the correct range, you can technically hit up to 8 targets with this move, up from 4 targets right now. And on top of that, Drain Cyclone also will get, let's see here. Before applying the move, it will also give the unit / resistance penetration up for this move only. And of course, the damage itself is apparently increased as well. Let's see here. Drain Cyclone says, okay, the damage is actually quite small, 96% only, but it's going to get a bit of a damage boost. Next up we have, I believe this is Rebellious Spirit. Yep, that's the skill. Rebellious Spirit is a buff move that gives you an increase in defense by 10 for 3 turns, as well as an increase in ATK by 40% for 3 turns. Now, it will decrease your evasion rate by 15, but unless you are using an evade unit, that doesn't really matter. So with Rebellious Spirit, the buff here is it will now also add a 3-turn defense penetration buff. We don't know how much yet because it's not stated here, but we should find out in a couple of days' time. And then next up we have Launch. This is right over here. Launch is a move that does a bunch of damage and has a critical. It has 35% extra chance to do a critical hit, and the range is 1, 2, 3. After the buff, it will now have range 4. So basically an increase in range from 3 to 4. And that seems like is the only change for launch. So not too much of a improvement really, but it's one of the most commonly used Viking skills, so I guess they didn't want to overdo it. Next up, this is, I believe, a reaction ability. The reaction ability Fighting Spirit. Fighting Spirit has a 20% chance to activate, and when it does activate, it will recover some HP for yourself. No, this is not an HP recovery move. It will give you a 3-turn HP regeneration effect, and it also has a chance to trigger Berserk on yourself by 25% for 3 turns. So the buff here for Fighting Spirit is that you will basically recover more HP for the 3 turns you have this effect. Overall, it's even with the buff, it doesn't sound like something you would actually use ever. So I don't know what you were thinking. With the buff over here, is more of a flavor thing rather than, you know, something that's actually useful. I don't think this is ever useful, not just in a PvP setting, but also in PvE. Next up, we have a green passive, and that's the move, the passive ability, Unyielding Protection. Now, Unyielding Protection normally gives you 15% missile resistance right now. And then after the buff, you will basically get a little bit more missile resistance. They didn't say how much, so I guess we'll have to check afterwards. And finally, the last Viking skill to be buffed is Yurma's level 120 skill, and that is Reaving Axe. Reaving Axe right now breaks physical barrier for the target. It's a single target move, by the way. It will also increase the defense penetration on Yurma for this attack only before doing a bunch of damage. So after the update tomorrow in JP, it will now also get about 30 to 35% critical hit rate increase. So basically, this move will now be easier to perform a critical hit with. And then on a critical hit, this move will, the Reaving Axe move will also recover some AP for Yurma. So the thing is, this move itself is, I think, Yurma's most powerful attack, because if you look at her master ability 2, it actually gives her 40 defense penetration. So whenever you're close enough to use Yurma's Reaving Axe, you are basically hitting for around 100% defense penetration, right? But the thing is, it could still not do that much damage, because I don't know what the what the multiplier letter is, but over here it says the damage is 165%. Doesn't sound like, you know, a huge amount of damage, right? But with the improvement to the critical hit rate, it could potentially do quite a bit more damage, and also at the same time it will give Yurma some extra AP to work with. Okay, so that's all for the job ability buffs, and now we're going to take a look at the units that will get what is this? Dream Enhancement and Reincarnation tomorrow. For UR rarity, we have Ketone, Frederica, and I believe this is Whisper. For MR, we have Shadowlings, O, Shimur, and Ramadan. And then finally for SR, we get Naya. Naya is like one of the most powerful units right now in Limited Guild Battle. So I think this is definitely one unit that might be worth spending all your all your SR reincarnation materials on. It'll be really interesting to see how good you're going to make Naya's SR Naya's reincarnation abilities. Even without reincarnation, like right now, or rather for the past 2 months already, Naya is like one of the most used units in Limited Guild Battle. So I'm quite excited to see what the upgrade will bring to the table. And then on top of that, there are still some units who don't have their master ability too. So tomorrow, Lamega, Nivlu, who is this? Rivial and Mia. Those 4 units will get their master ability too. And as previously informed through the notices, the Ice Selection Quest item, Feather Basilat, will also get a +1 upgrade. Alright, so that's everything. I think that just about wraps up everything for the update this time. See you guys in the next video.